What's up, y'all? TYT Sports on this Friday. I am Rick. That is Robert Littal, the CEO of BlackSportsOnline.com, and then there's just Jayar. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to allow everyone to hop on this live stream, but before we get into our first story, what I need everyone to do is, if you want to keep media independent, you want to help support our channel and help us find all of these stories and support them with graphics and videos and sometimes fireworks that go off when Jacory wants them to go off. You support that by clicking the green money icon and donating to TYT Sports.
Money team.
No, that was good.
Did I go with that?
Yeah,
okay,
that was
I
good.
just want to make sure it was
not like the real money team. Though. Like we don't have that sort of money team.
Oh, okay.
We don't have the kind of money where you could say that you're going to do something in a kickboxing match and then just back out.
Oh man, that was going to be like blood sport.
It was.
Yeah, he was. You know why he had to wait?
Talking about Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah,
Why did he back out?
Well, he was in Japan. You know, he didn't want to, say anything. And next thing you never get out. So he had to wait until he got out of Japan to get to the U.S. to speak his mind. But from my sources tell me right from the jump, he was like, "Wait a minute, this is not." But he's like, "What are you gonna do? You got armed guards."
Right.
Right there at the press conference.
Right.
I mean, you can't just be like, so you can't cause a scene in Japan. This is, you're not gonna be able to get LeVar Ball to get you out. I know that was China, but I'm just saying, some countries you just want to make sure you get back and then you can express yourself on the social media streets.
All right,
that's what happened with that.
A very savvy way of going about it for Floyd Mayweather. So we get into our main story here, and this involves a man who is 7'9", would have been the tallest NBA player ever, obviously. The tallest previously was George Mirasan, I believe, at 7'7", or Manute Bol at 7'8". Still, this man would have been the tallest. And who you are going to see right here is the focus of our entire, everyone in the studio just went, oh man. Yeah, he's huge, he's monstrous. That is, when he changed his name, we'll get into that a little bit later on. Michael Rhee, he renamed himself because he wanted to have Michael Jordan as his name. But this is Rhee Hyung-min, who is a North Korean basketball player. And here is even a picture of him dunking, which probably would have been very custom if he were to make the NBA. So here's how it started. Hun, who would be the tallest player in league history, was discovered last August, this is in '97, in Taiwan. So that is the first time anybody had ever seen the 7'9" Michael Rhee. He would change his name, as I stated, and here's the skinny on him, his favorite player being Michael Jordan. He played for the North Korean national team since '85. Again, this is in '97. Was voted basketball MVP at the 1993 Indonesian Games. 7'9", 280 pounds. Can I just say, for a 7-footer, that's like pretty good. Like a lot of them,
they end up being real skinny.
220, right? 230. Being 280 certainly was great for him. So then it was later stated in '98 that he was the tallest man, as you're seeing highlighted right here. 7 feet, 8.5 inches, though many were saying that he was 7'9". Now, the reason why we do these stories, yes, go ahead.
Nice mustache. Look at that. That's a Tom Selleck mustache right there.
So that was the previous record holder. I just want to make that clear because I think some people may think that is our NBA potential NBA player there. That was the previous.
Yes, that was. Can we show that one more time? Uncle
nice
Rico
mustache.
with the porn stash.
Oh, that's a nice stash. Look at that.
That's a beautiful stash.
Where was this guy from?
I don't know.
Okay.
The story isn't on him.
Pakistani.
You're asking too many questions.
I mean, he looks interesting. That's what I'm just saying. Let's do a story of him next week.
All right, let's not. Okay. So here's why we do these stories. Is
because, one more insert.
Yeah.
Since
I'm sorry.
No, it's good because I liked yours and it made me think of something else and might as well. When they gave this man stats, 7'9", 280 pounds, we noticed that. Shoe size 20. Shaq's shoe size, I think, was a 22, right?
I believe so.
Why do we care about people's shoe sizes when they play basketball? What does that do? What does that do for the game?
Well, you know what it means if you got big shoes.
No, not with Shaq. That's not what the streets say. I'm not trying to
I was going to say big socks. What were you talking about?
I'm just saying the streets say differently.
Would you like to continue, or are we going to?
No, because we put the shoe size and noted, we do, the breaking news. We talk about the shoe size. The height and weight make a difference in basketball. What does the shoe size make a difference? Allen Iverson, 6 foot, probably 190 pounds or so. Shoe size 12. Who cares? Why didn't we say his shoe size?
Hey, he makes a good point.
He does
What's the
make
point
a
of the
good
shoe
point.
size?
I don't have a good answer for it. I just think it's
We
something
got
I
to
never
stop
thought
giving
of.
the shoe size.
I'll relate that real quick and then I'll get back to this. Quarterbacks, when they're coming out of college, their hands are measured.
Right.
You know who prolifically had one of the smallest hands? Drew Brees.
Yeah, Drew Brees. And I mean, Drew
Doesn't
Brees
He's
matter.
not a big guy.
Doesn't matter.
And he's short too.
He's short. Doesn't matter. Still very successful. All right, so fair point. So again, the reason why we do a lot of these stories is because we want to find the mix between politics and sports, but mainly because something has to happen for us to have the ascent and then descent of our main character, who is Michael Rhee. Now here's where it gets a little political. Kim Jong-il, former leader of North Korea, had kept Rhee, then in his late 20s, under close wraps, but finally granted his blessing for him to become the first Asian in the NBA. Rhee flew to Canada with a coach, a diplomat, and a security guard. And talk about a serious team. And about half the NBA team sent scouts to see him. So then there was a huge article in the Ottawa Citizen where he would reside that said, "Ground Jordan." Don't move the goalposts too high for popularity. Arrived in Ottawa on only a 90-day visitor's permit. So he had a visa for 90 days. A great quote was that he said, "I don't care about being famous, I just want to be good at playing basketball." And that's the main point about this, is that all this poor guy wants to do is play basketball, but as you will see momentarily, the politics get in the way. Here's another very important point. In 1997, Peter McCaskill said he, as in Rhee, did not defect. Very important point. I'm sure of that. The governments of Canada and North Korea worked together on this to make sure his visas were in order. So now we get back to the dear leader, former dear leader, Kim Jong-il, who is to the left. He was then stated, well, one former scout for the NBA who went to North Korea 4 different times, Tony Ronzone, said of Kim Jong-il, he is a huge fan of NBA basketball. He's addicted to it.
We do know his son is as well, which is why he's such good friends with Dennis Rodman, who visited and did a basketball, what do they call it? Diplomacy, right?
Basketball diplomacy.
Right.
Yeah, that was the huge
with several of Vin Baker, I think, went on that trip.
Yes, he
Chris,
did.
not Chris. Doug Christie went on that trip.
His wife.
Did he?
Yeah.
Get permission. Just saying.
You're just dropping all these little inserts about your own stuff in the streets
Yeah, been in
and
the
the
business for a
sources.
while.
Hey, God bless Doug Christie. Represents the Seattle Sound.
Yeah,
as well.
no, pop collar moment. I did play one celebrity game with Doug Christie.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is a really nice guy.
Yeah, most people that are whipped by their wives are nice guys. I mean,
Mike Pence isn't a nice
I mean,
guy.
we all are by. Well, we know why.
Yeah, we do know him.
We
Very
know
much
why.
so. So,
His shoe size not that big.
huh?
I'm a 13, by the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. So here's where we get back on track here, is that Kim Jong-il was addicted to basketball. And Mark Ziegler wrote in the San Diego Union Tribune eons ago. He also is an avid basketball fan, experts on North Korea say, so much so that he is said to have regulation courts at most of his palaces, plus a video library of practically every game Michael Jordan ever played for the Bulls. So it's pretty interesting considering that Kim Jong-il, who is a communist leader, right, of North Korea, which if you haven't seen any of the documentaries about North Korea, I remember seeing one on Vice that took place in like the early thousands. It's a must-see because as many know who have seen those and even studied North Korea, guys like Kim Jong-il do not welcome a lot of outsiders. They do not welcome their own people, obviously having internet to this date, but they don't welcome them watching NBA games. So he would somewhat pirate these games and then have them broadcast only to himself to watch Michael Jordan and many others. At the time, the White House did not embrace a strategy of engagement with North Korea, which was split from South Korea after World War II and further isolated after the Korean War ended in a ceasefire in 1953. Yet it seems like the only thing that all these places had in common was basketball. And here's what they said. President Clinton's administration began thawing relations in the late 90s, and in October 2000, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright became the first senior-level U.S. government official to visit Kim in North Korea. And before leaving, this is really interesting, Albright presented the 5'3" Kim a gift, an authentic NBA basketball autographed by Michael Jordan. We were looking for something that was a little more meaningful than a bottle of scotch or Statue of Liberty. You can tell he was pleased. I didn't think he expected it. It was a very personal gesture, in a sense, said Albright. By the way, they tried to get Michael Jordan to go to North Korea. To no surprise, he declined.
Surprising that basketball gesture given to Kim Jong-il didn't thaw all the relations, and now we're best buddies with North Korea.
What are you trying
Just
to say?
saying. You can try. I mean, I guess it's okay to try it, but it's obviously didn't work out.
No, clearly it did not.
Basketball wasn't enough. One other thing I do remember when you mentioned how much of a fan Kim Jong-il was, and also his son now is of basketball. It's one of those things that we miss a lot of times, the normalcy of dictators, terrorists, and all those types of guys that we despise because of their actions. This made me remember most notable terrorists from America's point of view. Osama bin Laden used to love Whitney Houston, loved her. There was a thing where he was obsessed with her. He was like, I dream one day of marrying her. He was all about Whitney Houston.
So much so he wanted to kill Bobby Brown. Like literally.
It's true.
serious?
I'm
No,
dead
he had
serious.
fantasies of doing this.
I mean,
I didn't
that
know
dead. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he wanted to get rid of.
What are you trying to say?
He tried to get rid of Bobby Brown. He wanted to take out, Bobby Brown.
So no, this was the most bizarre story because we don't think of their mindset of a fan. They're fans just like anyone else. So
It's
he's a fan of
interesting.
basketball, just like this guy was a fan of.
It's interesting because I read. I'm big in books and the books that have to do with like the CIA and the FBI and all of the covert operation type of stuff. If you read these books, one of the things that they really talk about is how, like you said, the leaders, the dictators and stuff, even though they're people, the troops and all this, they say you hate the Western world. You hate everything about America, and that's how they rile them up. Behind the scenes, they're the ones that say, hey, can we get what the Americans got? Where they like the American, ladies, they like the American TV. They get the you're not supposed to drink and do this, but they get all of this, the special stuff. So, I mean, it's no different, I guess, than a lot of places where the leader is always telling the subservients what to do. But they're doing something totally opposite.
Doing all the same stuff.
Yeah.
If somebody in North Korea had the massive tapes of Michael Jordan's games, no way, you don't get that.
Yeah.
No, no chance. The basketball, by the way, was then put and enshrined.
Really?
In
Okay.
one of the many enshrinements that they have in North Korea. Now, back to '97. Here's what occurred. While they were trying to get a deal done, and while Michael Rhee was in Canada, he then lawyered up. And he stood 2 inches taller than most 7-footer, than 7-footer Manute Bol. This is via the Calgary Herald. So then we introduce to you Jack Donahue, Canada's basketball coach and the successful former coach of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who worked closely with our main subject. Who is it again? Michael Rhee, towering over everybody. Now, here is where the politics greatly come in. There was something that was passed in 1917 called the Trading with the Enemy Act, which was a United States law that restricted trade with countries hostile to the nation, authorized the use of economic sanctions against foreign nations, citizens, and nationals of foreign countries. So basically, you can't trade with North Korea. That's all that this is saying. And then there was even Gary Fitzsimmons, a personnel director, who said the NBA and the State Department have sent us a memo on all of that. It's treason. We do not have an agreement with the communist country of North Korea, so that's a moot point. So then, of course, what would happen? Many people would work behind the scenes trying to make this deal happen, but still, for any spokesman to say, yeah, that's treason, for us to do so, that is how much, and look, we've talked about so many laws on this show that are so heavily outdated. This is one that and as you'll see a little bit later on, could have been uplifted, maybe even to have a better relationship, even though it is communist North Korea.
It's kind of wild that you see people as commodities. You know what I mean? Like, we can't trade a person. Like, that's in and of itself, that's a little weird, even coming from, America. Like, we're not gonna allow an actual person, who's just looking to play ball, to come play ball because, we have issues with the country. That just seems, that's like an odd thing. It's not like you're trying to trade, guns or bombs or anything. It's an actual person.
No, that's cool.
We
can do that.
But hey, a person just want to play basketball. But that's treason to let a North Korean come in and play basketball. That's pretty sucky on our end. I'm using the word sucky.
No, sucky. Let's bring it back. It's totally cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sucky.
We're a PG audience.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what else happened. Then in 1998, we're fast forwarding here to the Ottawa Citizen, because Michael Rhee then added a lobbyist, which I thought was incredibly interesting, to try and persuade many in the American political system, namely Dianne Feinstein, both from California, which has a larger Korean community. And this man's name, the lobbyist, American lobbyist, hired by Evergreen Sports Management. His name was Eric White. So he was going to Dianne Feinstein and many others and saying, look, we gotta try to help this guy out. Now, they somewhat fell on deaf ears because then Rhee stated in 1998, a little bit later on, I'm a big man, I want to test my ability. I am not interested in money or politics. As a sportsman, I just want to try. And at that point in time, while I'm researching the story, I was just thinking like, man, I just want to give you a hug. like he needed a hug or a cookie or something because all he wanted to do, as he said right there, was just play basketball.
Play ball?
He just wanted to play ball, man. But then, of course, the big heads, as we know, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. Politics sidetrackery is what one outlet wrote, the Daily Journal, in April 1st of 1998, where the Clinton administration, as it was reported, has not granted a waiver because North Korea has stonewalled in talks aimed at reducing tensions on the North Korean peninsula. Now, let me just ask you both a question here, and Jayar obviously being an EP for the Young Turks for many years. With the Clinton administration, this would never happen, right? They would never try.
Specifically because of that one?
No. Just mainly because or any administration. Could you see them ever doing deals?
Well, it's not a good political. It's not a good look. Put it that way, politically. I mean, we see what the current administration was trying to do with North Korea, but except it was all self-aggrandizing in the first place. It had nothing to do with actually getting anything done, except saying, "Hey, look at me." So that was falling. Even with his approach with so many of his supporters that will support everything he does, that even looks bad. That was the one thing that Trump has done that even his supporters went,
right.
When they'll accept most anything else he does. So with whatever the intentions are, you can't look like you're giving anything up from the point of America, which we tout how powerful and strong and dominating we are over the rest of the world. So therefore, the rest of the world does what we want. So if there's an inclination that you're giving anything, that's weakness. You're giving away to a dictator. You know he kills people. You're now supporting killers, which we've done in many other countries, by the way.
Totally.
But this specific one is the one that's been highlighted so much that you can't look bad in this particular situation, which again is why we're at the point we always are.
It's in this particular political climate, if that was to happen, people would think he was some sort of sleeper agent. That's how paranoid we are about everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
everything is a conspiracy.
Everything is conspiracy now. I think that's one of the problems is when the top is throwing out crazy stuff and doctoring videos and all this stuff. At the bottom, now nobody knows, because there's a lot of not very smart people in this world.
Right.
So you just tell them anything and they, believe it. Or they'll argue about anything. So if someone's like, hey, we got a North Korean guy coming in, they're like, oh, he's gonna, come in and blow up, Staples Center.
Right.
That's where we're at right now.
And who's to say that didn't happen in the past either?
That's true,
People
probably,
were pretty paranoid about North
I mean,
Korea all the time.
because by the way, let's keep it real. There is something to worry about as far as whether or not you give legitimacy to someone who is doing things to folks in that part of the world,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So then there is that concern. So there's legitimate concern as to not giving anything to certain folks in the world because you'll be seen as contributing to what they're doing, which they're gonna do anyway. It's just they need legitimacy from a country like ours.
Totally.
That's always the line you have to toe.
And then it would be used as a political ploy by the opposite side.
Now you're being used, because let's keep it real. Yeah, these are bad guys.
Totally.
They're on opposite
Still
ends
are.
of this,
And this guy would probably have to have handlers. And who knows who those handlers really are.
Right, one of them was Jack Donaghy, as I outlined, but there would be many others, no doubt about it. So here's also what he went on to say. I thought if I could play in the NBA, it would contribute to friendly relations between my country and the US, but my efforts have had the opposite effect. So now you're suddenly hearing this change in stance, not necessarily stance, but just more of a mood of having aspirations and then them just crumbling down, and here's why. According to US officials, the essential issue in this entire deal between North Korea and not even the NBA, but America, was money. Washington insisted none of Rhee's salary could be repatriated to North Korea. The Pyongyang government refused to accept the American demand. So all North Korea wanted to do was use this man as a tool in order to get American dollars back in their pockets, and thus now we have the conflict within our entire story. And here's what the Chicago Tribune wrote in 2000. After a State Department relaxation on dealings with North Korea, the NBA notified teams they can negotiate with Michael Rhee. So it seemed like even when we were stopping dead in our tracks, the NBA continued on, because at first they sent out the memo, remember, to all these teams saying you can't sign him. Now they're having a change in stance. However, this is where we reach the bitter conclusion of all this, because Mark Titus put this out, formerly of a great network called Grantland, or excuse me, a great website called Grantland. Tony Ronzone, who we showed previously, who has experience as a scout, provided my favorite moment of the entire 2 days when he was on assignment. Mark Titus was. Ranzone met face-to-face with Kim Jong-il and negotiated a wheat deal to bring Reed to the NBA. So once the dollars weren't there, Kim Jong-il was like, hit me up with that wheat, bro. And then the dear leader, Kim Jong-il, told Ranzone he would allow Reed to leave North Korea and play pro ball if the team paid Kim's regime in wheat.
Now, what can you do with the wheat? Because obviously the wheat is important for something.
Get some great beer.
I mean, I know that, but it got to be something else they're doing over there with the wheat. Nobody just says, give me some wheat. If it was weed, it would be maybe a little different. But wheat, it has to be something. We're missing something.
It's what I was trying to figure out too, because it's wheat. There's so many different crops and commodities and things you can.
I mean, were they low on bread? Or, I mean, bagels? They wanted to open a Starbucks? I mean, what?
All of the above are well within reason. But we'll never know.
Wheat negotiations.
Because the deals fell through. They did not get their wheat, and they did not get their American dollars.
They mad about that.
And Ree went on the record saying the NBA agreed for me to play. So did the U.S. Commerce Department. But the State Department waited for 6 months. They said no. They wanted to use me for political purposes, so I just gave up. And then in the Ottawa Citizen, perhaps the lasting image of Ree's stay were pictures of him on the court attempting to shoot against defenders who held tennis rackets in the air. I love that part. But with no new political developments, Ree suddenly returned home almost as quietly as he arrived 17 months ago. The last time that we ever saw Michael Ree was when Kim Jong-il passed away, and we saw him in the crowd. Many thought that this was like, whoa, wait a minute. Are they having their own like little monstars? Is this photoshopped? Like what the hell is going on? No, it was Michael Ree who was in attendance.
Was he in the military at that point? Because he's in.
He was offered a military role that never took place in the military.
I got you.
And unfortunately, that is where our story ends. Is that a man who was 7'9", who knows what could have happened between these two countries. Look, I think that sport can be used as a really, really great, humbling bridge of a tool to try and help. And I know that it's North Korea and we're never gonna change North Korea, at least maybe not even in our lifetimes, who the hell knows? But I do think that this would have aided at least somewhat of a change. However, we'll never know that because the North Korean government kept moving the goalposts over and over and over again. And the American political system said, hell no, we can't do this anymore.
I don't even think it would have did that much, but I would have just liked to see him play. Just saying where you like to see, we saw Manute Bol and others. I mean, someone's almost 8 feet tall. You just want to see how it would work. Even during that part of the NBA, we had a lot of high flyers, back then. Would he have been able to hang? Would he have been, Yao Ming? You never know. And for him, I'm pretty sure it's very frustrating because if you ever just want to do one thing, that's what I always tell people when I was younger. I said, a lot of things in life, you make mistakes and you're like, something I could deal with those mistakes. That's how you learn, right? But I think the one thing, if you're a person and you start to get older and you realize whatever the one thing you wanted to do in life, you never got to do, you never got to challenge yourself with that. That has to, stick at you every time. I mean, all I wanted to be was like a journalist, right? So like if I went to one game or, one event, I was like, hey, I did more than what I expected to do. But if I'd have, had turned out to be a plumber, nothing against plumbers, I would have always been like, man, I never got my dream.
Right.
So I feel really bad for him.
Yeah, that has to suck.
Yeah.
And it's outside factors, not like because
not you,
he
right.
failed at something or injuries nagged him or something like that. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's totally tough. So now he's just in North Korea, being 7'9".
That must be interesting because, not the stereotype, but, normally they're pretty short.
They are?
Yeah, they're pretty short. They're pretty short over there.
So Michael Ree, we feel for you, brother.
Yeah.
We feel for you that you were used in a ploy for political gain on one or two sides.
And all the times you hit your head going through, doors and stuff, man. Man, that gotta be rough, man. You always ducking. Imagine getting in a taxi and stuff, sleeping in a hotel. We don't think about that stuff like that.
No, we do not.
That's normal stuff for, a normal-sized human. You're 7. I remember watched the Andre the Giant documentary.
I was just gonna say that.
Man, you taking flights, across the country. I mean, You take Southwest. I mean, what do you do?
Please take Southwest.
Do
Yeah,
not take Spirit.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
All right, I'm done with my tangent.
No.
I'm done with my tangent.
How would you fly if you're 7 foot?
That's rough.
Well, let us know in the comments section below. We are done here, but before we sign off, again, if you'd like to contribute to our channel, hit the green money icon, send in anything that you can to keep us running via YouTube Super Chat. We will see you next time.
Money team.
Do you know what you could get for $4.99? Maybe 1 pack of Skittles. You know what's better? A lot of content. So download the TYT app, available on iOS and Android.